Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the phenomenon known to mankind as Saturday afternoon's main event. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. If you guys don't know who I am, whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, I suggest you go back to school or go into your local library. Get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably under Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the words phenomenal. Guys, it is not a phenomenal one. On a show like this, I should be going ahead and screaming my lungs out because of what I've been seeing after this past week of professional wrestling. But I think the Lord knew that I would lose my voice in the process, so he began to have me go under the weather to begin with now. So here I am, suffering with a bit of a minor sore throat, but hey, it's okay. Because the show must go on, and I'm still gonna yell as much as God gives me the opportunity to. But beyond all, instead of having to do all the talking, I have somebody to do all the talking for me, and that is my co-host, comrade, brother from another mother and dimension, the one and only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So guys, without further ado, give me 2 claps and a peep stage.
Woo! Yes. I can hear the pain in my partner's voice getting through what he's going through right now, but yes, I got his back. You've got our back also. It's a weird week.
This is what happens when the Knicks make the NBA Finals.
Oh, you mean these Knicks? These Knicks?
Oh, those Knicks, peeps. See, my eyes are lighting. Those orange and blue skies, man. Orange and blue skies.
Yes. But of course, for all those that have joined us, thank you for joining us on Twitch or on YouTube or on X or wherever you're seeing us. We thank you. We're happy that you joined us. And of course, as we always preach every week for the last 5 or so years, we've been telling everybody that you cannot operate on a great Saturday afternoon without the 3 tenets that keep us rolling on. And that is, of course, laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible.
That works.
Yes.
Well, peeps, thank you for that, my friend. Great to have you on the show. Our other co-host, Mr. 411, would and should probably be joining us within the next couple of minutes, sooner rather than later on the show today. And of course, shout out to him and shout out to Oracle and Yoracle Triple C, who is certainly enjoying his sabbatical on the Tribal Chief schedule.
Yes.
But beyond all, I think it's only fair that we get started with today's show. So thank you to all who are tuning in, whether you are watching on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. We thank you guys. You guys can go ahead and follow us on our social media platforms. Instagram being at Saturday Afternoons _ main event, Twitter being Saturday Main, and our TikTok being Saturday Afternoons ME. But without further ado, peeps, I think it's only fair that we go ahead and begin the show today. And of course, we hear that sound. It's time for one thing and one thing only. It is time for 3 Rope Talk, all of the professional wrestling news that you can possibly get that consists within the span of the squared circle. Without further ado, peeps, first topic of the day.
Yes.
Saturday night's main event and the Raw and SmackDown review for this week.
Yes.
So, within all the scat that WWE produces, they didn't put on a bad show for Saturday night's main event. Of course, we were trying to sit here and guess what the main event would be for that show. And to a degree, the main event delivered. Although the Street Profits are still not the tag team champions.
Yes.
But speaking of tag team champions,
yes,
Logan Paul, Taurus Tricep.
Yes.
Go figure. Peeps, aside from that, Penta retains his Intercontinental title.
Yes.
So Ruka wins by disqualification.
Yes.
Or, and, the baddies, alongside Jade Cargill, ended up taking the dub. What happened to our predictions for that show? We went to hell with that.
All over the place. Yes, exactly. It's questionable in how things went, but they kind of follow the same kind of ebb and flow the WWE has been known for over the last month and a half, 2 months, where they kind of go in cruise control with the occasional change up here and there. The overarching story that came out of Saturday night's main event, as you touched on, were injuries. Sol Ruka had also gotten hurt in her match with Becky Lynch. I believe she hurt her ankle in the process of trying to do the Soul Snatcher. So at some point, as good of a move as it is, she may start to think about either changing that move up or doing something different. Because right now, based on that, when she hits it, it looks great. It's perfect on camera. When she doesn't hit that move, it looks bad. It's almost the same way we talked about how the Canadian Destroyer looks. How if it's done the right way, it looks devastating. But there's a whole lot of cooperation that goes along with that kind of a move. This is kind of the same way, and if she's either too far or the opponent is too close and she has to go and do the rotation to do that move, you're going to end up getting the last 2 or 3 weeks of what looked like botches, and I wouldn't really call them botches, but they did not look clean as they should have. As far as Logan Paul, I wonder if Danhausen has actually cursed the Vision, because they look like they really are cursed. It's Braun Breaker just coming back from his injury. Bronson Reed is still out with his injury. We now have to add Logan Paul with his injury, and the only one that's kind of left out of this is the one and only Austin Theory, who's now teaming with his tag team partner that's come back from injury in Braun Breaker. What's going on with the Vision?
What's going on with the Vision? It just shows
that
Mr. This is what we do doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I feel that Triple H's approach towards the Vision post-WrestleMania has been abysmal. Don't you think, peeps? And I mean, I don't think I'm shooting myself in the hip here.
Yeah.
I just think they just have done a terrible job.
Yeah, but also to be fair, the injuries altered a lot of where they would have been, because a lot of the matches that have come all the way from WrestleMania on were altered based on the fact that a lot of members of the Vision had gotten hurt to begin with. So I'll give Triple H that small caveat. But going forward to booking this team and booking how they're going to be approached and how they're going to be shown and showcased on television, it's kind of hard to book a dominant group when that dominant group are all sharing hospital beds.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. Let me stop. But anyway, let's move from that real quick to something that we can talk about, the Raw review, peeps.
Yes.
How did you feel about the show? We had a lot going on within that.
Yes.
How did you feel about the show going through the booking towards Roman and, Jacob, how we're getting more into that? Like, again, just Raw as a whole.
Raw, the way it looked on camera and the way that they booked everything, it was, for the most part, as front-loaded as you possibly could try based on what they had. I think the first hour was more or less setting up the matches that are going to happen in Italy for Clash at Italy. But also at the same time, we also have a feeling for what they plan on doing going forward with Oba and Brock. The way that they explained Oba and Brock, especially from Brock's side of things, makes it a little more plausible as to why he is not retired, so to speak. That doesn't mean he's not going to have a retirement match, but based on the way he explained why he came back and did what he did, because they showed a small vignette kind of explaining why he jumped Oba. And then the subsequent confrontation between Oba and Paul Heyman at the top of the show was really, really good as far as that goes. And I think the quote that Oba used was, "The last time I wrestled him, I was there to beat him. The next time I get into the ring, I go to kill him." And he was intimidating. He was in Heyman's face. He looked confident. He looked angry. And more importantly, he looked like the guy that everybody is really waiting for, that giant push to get there.
Indeed, indeed. Now, peeps, one thing. Let's talk about Penta and Javon Evans.
Yes.
What a match those two put on
Yes.
post Double or Nothing.
Yes.
Peeps. So let me just ask you a question. Does it seem like Triple H's pen only works when AEW puts on a banger pay-per-view and he feels as if he has no other choice but to send his best wrestlers out there to wrestle?
Yes.
What? In the words of Hurricane Helms, what's up with that?
What's up with that? What's up with that? Yeah, I think, yes, you're noticing the trend also. I think that what Triple H is doing now is, let's really call it as far as talent-wise. We know WWE has top-tier in-ring talent. The question is, how are they booked and how are they going to be used going forward? We know AEW has top-tier talent. How are they going to be booked and what are they going to be doing? And I think what Triple H is doing, I don't think he's per se taking a cue from what AEW is doing. I just think that what he's going to book based on this was the go home Raw before going to Italy. I think he wanted to leave those that are watching it on Netflix, giving them a good taste in their mouth about what they can do. And what they're doing is they seem to give the impression that they're maybe teasing a more aggressive look for Javon Evans. Yes. I don't think he's going to turn heel. That wouldn't make any sense. But they've kind of given a little bit of an aggressive turn look to see what he looks like going forward. But that match with himself and Penta. First of all, Penta has had, in that span of 3 days, 2 quality match of the year quality type matches. The match at Saturday night's main event with Ethan Page, which for me was the best match of the entire show for Saturday night's main event. And then you look at Penta and Javon Evans. That was, as far as I'm concerned, a pay-per-view quality or premium live event quality match. That was a tremendous match.
I agree.
Yes.
Kind of with what Paul Heyman said a couple of months ago on Unreal. We have something with Penta.
Yes.
We knew this. We've seen Penta. We understand Pentagon Jr. The man always had it. The fact that he's being able to highlight it week in, week out on a consistent basis, let that never change. But peeps,
now, what they're doing with his brother Ray Phoenix, that's a different story because you wouldn't even know he was in the company the way they booked him. But I digress on that one. First one of the day. First one of the day.
Look at that. But peeps, let's talk about it. SmackDown. Other than seeing what Ricky Saints had to understand the Dave Chappelle sketch of what did the 5 fingers say to the face? And he got...
Oh, excuse me. I have to do it like Trick.
The fact that they're turning Trick Williams into this Booker T hybrid of a pimp named Slickback.
Yes.
I love it. And the fact that Little Yachty, his mannerisms, his tone, the way he can cut a pro, why isn't it that they just use celebrities like Yachty as the measuring stick? Can't they just sit there and say to a celebrity, you gotta love this. Like, tell us your background and your history of watching wrestling. And if they sit there and they hit us with Rock and Stone Cold. No. I want to, like, Yachty loves his impressions of I love going ahead and watching Jeff Hardy weekly. My favorite match with Jeff Hardy is literally him going ahead and going up against The Undertaker in the ladder match in 2002. Like, the fact that he can pinpoint and direct and say to himself that he is that big of a fan tells you how much he loves doing what he does.
Yes, and you could also see in the video that he did with Trick Williams that's been floating around on social media the last couple of days of him training with Trick Williams. So you can tell not only is he in tune with the business, he wants to get better so that he can have some kind of in-ring physicality happen. He can be a lot more credible in helping the presentation of Trick Williams. And that's all you ask for if you're going to have a celebrity join in, is that at least kind of lock in, be all in with it and not feather to the side and maybe give it a half decent effort. Show what you're going to do And that's exactly what he's doing that we didn't get from Travis Scott. But there's another, I digress. There you go. There's the second one.
Good Lord, peeps. Good Lord.
Yes.
But we did get an interaction with the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes, and of course, the Ring General, Gunther.
Yes.
Peeps, the more that the days go by and as the hours tick past into tomorrow, I think we're going to have a new WWE Champion. Do you feel the same way?
I'm almost leaning in that direction, but I don't think they're going to pull the trigger yet. It's weird in the sense that if Cody is going to win, he cannot win clean because what you're trying to build for Walter, if you're trying to build him into this monster, if you're going to have him beaten, you're going to have something happen. Maybe somebody that maybe Sami Zayn, who has a problem with Cody, maybe he'll show up at some point or something along those lines. But I would, if it happened, I would love to see it. Will it happen? I don't know if they got the guts to pull the trigger on that yet.
But in duality, when it comes down to the promos that they cut on each other this past Friday night, or I should say afternoon, depending on what time you watched SmackDown yesterday, what is it that you feel compelling from these two superstars itself leading into this match?
The promos that they've been cutting back and forth seem almost personal. And it makes sense from Cody's side, where he's coming from. He doesn't sound like a heel. He's not coming across as like that tweener that they've been trying to portray Cody, more or less the face with an edge that they've been trying to portray him as. That's not what he comes across as. He just sounds like he's fighting for his life and defending himself. Whereas Walter comes in and he is all about himself. He doesn't sound arrogant per se, but if you're going to go on that route and you're going to build what they're trying to build with him, that's all you have to do is make sure that it's believable. And what is there not to believe from watching Walter when he cuts promos, especially the promos that he cut with Cody? And those are the kinds of things that make him look like the actual ring general that he is.
Indeed. But moving from there, that is our Saturday night's main event, Raw and SmackDown review. Peeps, thank you for that, my friend. We move now to breaking news that has been kind of like concurring in the last couple of days. Jacob Fatu is injured.
Yes.
Happened on a house show during their European tour this past week. And now people are questioning whether he will be facing Roman Reigns in their tribal combat match at Clash in Italy tomorrow. Peeps, why? 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 Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes. Why? Yes. You know, here's the crazy thing that comes across is the contradiction. There was always the argument that when wrestlers would go on these tours, when they would do a European tour, or they would do a tour where they would have the house show circuit for maybe 15, 16, 17 dates in a row, something like that. The whole point was the house shows are there to build the premium live event, the pay-per-view, the big show. At the same time, a lot of wrestlers complained that all of those house shows were wear and tear on our bodies. So just within the last couple of years, we started to see a reduction in house shows, not so much because they weren't selling out, because the way the WWE has been marketing their house shows when they did them, they were selling out, especially internationally. Now we're getting a conundrum of, now that we're doing house shows, we run the risk of these guys getting hurt. So they weren't ready because they weren't doing the house shows. So now we got to give them more time to get in the ring and wrestle. And now the stars that are doing the house shows are getting hurt. Now, if Jacob Fatu gets hurt, who's in the main event of your premium live event that's going to be tomorrow, that does a huge disservice to the people that paid $800 million for a ticket to see this. So I think, based on what I've read, that he still is a go so far. I don't know how limited he's going to be in ring of what he wants to do, what he can do. The question becomes then, if he's not able to go, what's plan B? What's plan C? Because they put all of their bloodline eggs in one basket. We already know what Roman is giving us. We also know what they're trying to give us with Jacob Fatu. If he's hurt, then that becomes a huge problem going forward, because this storyline, I think, was supposed to start to go way into the summer as far as what they planned on doing with Roman.
Peeps,
what does that do?
Peeps, I got a fantastic idea.
Go ahead, shoot. I'm all ears.
What if they play this off kayfabe wise, as if, Jacob Fatu walks into the arena at Clash in Italy right before the show goes on the air. It's the pre-show. He walks in, sees a Danhausen. Danhausen tries talking to him. Jacob's trying to tell him, hey, you know what? I need to focus on my match. I'm trying to become champion tonight. Danhausen is the kind of like, hey, but Jacob, I feel like you can go ahead and give Danhausen a couple of point housens on how to win the championship housing. Just for Jacob to shove him aside, and then Danhausen can hit him with the, you know what, Jacob Fatu, you are cursed. Just for minutes after the show begins, maybe just have a crane fall on Jacob, and Jacob is rolled out the match. Just for Adam Pearce to be like, why did you have to do this? You know what? You're going up against Roman Reigns tonight in the main event in a tribal combat match for the title. Then have Danhausen win the whole damn
thing. That sounds like something that you would probably see in 2K.
No. That's Vince McMahon booking in 2005.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. You got a point there. Especially what they've been doing with Danhausen. If you think about what they did on SmackDown last night, or what they're trying to do with Danhausen, is he building a Frankenstein? He's grabbing different components now in the locker room. We know the feud that he has with The Miz. I don't know where that's going, but they run the risk of burning him out and overexposing him. So they have to be careful with what they're doing. But my Lord, what are they doing?
What are they doing?
Yes.
What are they doing? All we can do is hope for the best for Jacob Fatu when it comes down to his injury.
Pay me more human monies. More human monies.
You heard that? You heard that? Donate to Peeps' retirement. More human monies for Peeps. But in all duality, we move from that to still in the world of WWE. Vince McMahon and Nick Khan are in trouble. Supposedly, they pulled a Hillary Clinton. And when I say Hillary Clinton, I think Peeps is shaking his head because he understands the whole calamity of that. Yes, these guys are out here deleting messages. Messages that probably could have shown proof into what was going on behind the scenes when it pertains to Vince McMahon naming his toys after Big Van Vader. Bam Bam Bigelow, Andre, probably Macho.
Here they all, Ultimate Warrior. Yes, that's not an image that I think anybody wanted to keep in their heads this Saturday, but hey.
Just for them to just, just Jay's gonna puke. Let me stop. Okay.
Thank God he wasn't around to go ahead. Here they all, my Fabby. Do not put my name in this at all. No name at all. At all. Break your arm.
But all in all, as we see, that is going to be somewhat of a problem within the case because the judge has ruled that deletion of concurrent information.
Yes.
Peeps, what's in store?
Well, I had to make sure I pulled the story up because there are some things that we have to get to, and then we can kind of explain that. But in general, basically the story is, we know this is going on from the proposed merger at the time of WWE and Endeavor, which became TKO. Yeah. And basically it's a ruling from the merger lawsuit, which is going to go to trial next month, that the shareholders are challenging the deal based on the fact that the vice chancellor of the trial's name is J. Travis Laster, found that Vince McMahon and WWE President Nick Khan destroyed evidence in reference to some of the filings that were going on. In essence, there are 5 facts that they're going to use based on the assumption and the presumption of guilt going through a lot of this, where there were text messages going that went back and forth between Vince McMahon, Nick Khan, and of all people, Triple H, where they were trying to get Triple H or get Vince McMahon to take his messages and move them to the Signal app. For those that know in politics and you've heard about some of the scandals that have happened, Signal is an app where the text messages that you run are then deleted after a certain amount of time. And the text message that was shown was of a conversation between Nick Khan, I believe Triple H, and Vince McMahon. And Nick Khan had mentioned the word lingus. Vince McMahon basically said, "What the hell is lingus?" And then he said in the following text message, read it backwards. Lingus spelled backwards is signal. That's when that happened. And then that text message was then eventually deleted. So what we have right now is that the judge has found that McMahon, Khan, and 3 others, which is Paul Levesque, which is Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Brad Bloom, all used Signal's auto-delete function, which wiped out messages that had a legal duty they had to preserve for this case. So they usually have their messages encrypted, and that's why they were thrown in there as well. So basically, it's a setback. And here is what happens through here. Based on what was assumed, these 5 facts that were assumed are going to be in the case, it is assumed that Emanuel's promise to provide Vince with continued role at any post-merger company after the transaction influences Vince's decision-making with respect to the merger. So basically, he was promised, as will be assumed, that if the merger went through, that Vince would actually get a job in the company as a high-priced CEO or somebody of any leadership in the company. The second part of that, Emanuel's offer of indemnification and other legal support related to pending federal investigations of Vince's alleged misconduct influenced Vince's decision-making with respect to the merger. So basically, he incriminated himself in the fact that the only reason why he was going to get that job was because the merger was going to go through, and Vince influencing the merger is assumed is the reason why the merger went through instead of letting the merger happen naturally. Vince also decided to pursue a transaction with Endeavor in 2022 before the company actually initiated the review process. Khan also communicated that Emanuel between August and December of 2022 to facilitate a transaction between WWE and Endeavor. And the last fact is Vince and Nick Khan worked with an advertisement firm called Rain to steer the process towards a deal with Endeavor and away from other potential bidders, which is illegal. You cannot do that. That's what a lot of people would look at as insider trading. So there's a lot on the bone for this one. And the probable issue that's going to happen is all of this is now public. The trial starts next month, and it does not look good at all for WWE. And it seems like every time we talk about Vince McMahon, he's almost like the boogeyman. He shows up, he's coming to get you. And that's literally what ends up happening. So Vince and Nick Khan and the WWE can't get out of their own way, apparently, from a lot of this.
Well, then, we must wait and see. Although I don't know how much of that we will be seeing and how much we will be seeing of Vince McMahon after all of this either. But all in all, I digress. We move from there to the world of All Elite Wrestling. AEW Double or Nothing in our Dynamite review. Peeps!
Yes.
What a show. What a show.
Yes.
What a show. I want to go ahead and first off say this. Okay? Stadium Stampede wasn't that bad. Aside from the tennis balls.
Yes. Went a little overboard with the theming.
Darby and MJF wasn't bad either. Defeated the man with a headlock takeover to regain the I have no problem with the show. The show was great.
Yes.
How many heels does AEW have in it as of right now, peeps?
Heels, I think just about everybody's a heel now. Just about. That's what it kind of looks like. Yes.
So I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
It is not a problem to me that Kevin Knight churned on Darby Allin.
Yes.
I just don't understand the oversaturation of how many heels within the company as of right now. Everybody wants to be a heel. For what? For what reason? For what reason? Is that the only way that you can get an edge to your character? Which I understand that the minute people turn heel, it's a perfect arc. But is it needed? Because now, did Kevin Knight say that he wanted to be able to go and get the AEW title? Did he say that he was on his way to wanting to have that around his waist? Yes. MJF is the champion. MJF is the heel. What are they going to pull? Heel versus heel? But I understand it might take some time to do that because now we have to run that program with Darby and Kevin, which is going to be a problem because I feel like, okay, if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. But damn it, peeps. Beyond all, what were your thoughts on the show itself? And when it came down to the main event, how did you feel about that?
First and foremost, what I will say, and I've always been as fair as I can when it comes to AEW, and I usually say that their pay-per-views are usually stellar, give or take either the booking decision, match placement, or certain feuds that are questionable. And then their television shows sometimes are really good, and then other times it's kind of lacking the oomph to continue on with certain storylines. But as far as Double or Nothing, I go on record as saying Double or Nothing was their best pay-per-view this year, without question. The matches from top to bottom, there was not one really bad match on the card at all. Ospreay, Samoa Joe for their quarterfinal match in the Owen tournament was really, really good. I especially love the spot where Ospreay went to go for the Os cutter and then Joe just walked out of the way. Nope. Nope. I love when he gets at some part of his matches, he always puts a nope in there. So I've always loved that. They started off the show, and I'm not even talking about the pre-show stuff, because there were 3 pre-show matches. One was the AEW Women's Tag Team title match, which was pretty much a squash. So we'll go out of it for that. Cage and Cope winning the AEW Tag Team titles was good in the sense that they finally built that arc. It was an I Quit match. They built that arc. If Cage and Cope didn't win, they would never wrestle again as a tag team to go after tag team championships. They brought in Copeland's wife, Beth, who took a nasty bump into the steel steps. We had a flaming table. We had a whole bunch of other accoutrements around the ring, in the ring, out the ring, including the spot where the finish was a Scorpion Deathlock, and then Spike making a return with Edge putting Dax in a headlock and using Spike on his head to get the I Quit out of it. So that worked within the frame of that. It was a very violent match in that sense. Takeshita and Okada, another really good match. Yes. They have been bringing that in there, but even more so, the story wasn't so much the fact of Takeshita finally winning the AEW International title. It was what happened after the match, which was the returning Kyle Fletcher, who shows up. And for those that follow New Japan and know exactly what's going on, the storyline between Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher makes perfect sense, in which Kyle Fletcher came in, handed him the International Championship, gave him a hug, and then he gave him the raised hand, and then the Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff turn on him and clotheslined him right there in the middle of the ring. So that works. And then he gave him one of the sickest teardrop brain busters I've seen. So we know Fletcher is back and ready to wrestle, and they're going to build that feud going in potentially for All In at some point. Forbidden Doors just next month as well.
Exactly.
The main event match, first of all, before we even get to that, Swerve and Bandito, for me, was the match of the night.
I agree.
They tore the house down with that match. that was, without question, the reason why Bandito was in AEW and why Swerve, when you get him with the right in-ring talent, brings out a match like that. That was a quality match, and that was a quarterfinal match within that Owen tournament. So that's going to keep going, and that was a really good match.
It's the spot in that match that had me excited and, like going crazy was the catapult house call.
Yes.
That right there was a thing of beauty.
Yes.
I can't proceed to tell you, and then the near fall immediately after. That's when I probably sat there and I was like, "Holy hell! Like seriously? Like serious?"
Yes.
They got me losing my voice again, peeps.
Yes,
but
it was that good.
It was that good, exactly.
Yes.
But beyond all, when it pertains towards the main event, your thoughts?
Yes. MJF and Darby Allin was a really good match. It was a brutal match. I was expecting to see, based on the way that they'd gone, a lot more blood, because I was expecting there to be a lot more blood. The tone of the match got toward the end, where they went up the ramp, where they had the table, which was supposed to be a hair versus title match, and they had the Clippers there. And using that table where the Clippers were and watching Darby Allin literally scale the scaffolding on the stage and giving a coffin drop to MJF, which I thought he almost decapitated the man, because the way he fell, he literally landed on MJF's head. But as they get back down to the ring, they get back towards wrestling in the ring, the finish, the tombstone off the apron, through the table, and then throwing him back into the ring. And then, of course, the headlock takedown, which MJF has been using in this whole feud with Darby Allin back and forth to win his third championship. And it was afterwards. That's the part that everybody didn't get fully. And that was the Kevin Knight heel turn, as you mentioned earlier about how many heels or whatever. The thing I will say, they have kind of built this heel turn. It was a slow burn. But if you think about it, this kind of built over the last month or so, where while Darby Allin was defending the championship every week, Kevin Knight kind of had a discussion, if you remember, with Swerve. And Swerve basically looked at Kevin Knight and said, if you want to be a killer, you have to act like a killer. And that kind of went into that little turn of where they've been going with Kevin Knight until they got up into the point where Kevin Knight over the last couple of weeks have been kind of hinting, Darby, you gotta win this championship. I want to get that title shot. But also at the same time, don't let the fans down. Don't let the jet down. And I think he took that to heart. And what happened was, after MJF was about to continue on with this beating, that's when he goes into the ring and saves him, and then hits him with the UFO splash off the top onto the gurney, and then turns the gurney over. So yes, a completed heel turn for Kevin Knight, which brings another dimension to his character that they've been building, which shows you he's getting a big push going forward.
Indeed. And of course, that kind of tied into our Dynamite thoughts, which I have to say, the only thing for me that was the highlight of the show, genuinely, because AEW just doesn't know how to produce a show after a big show.
Yes.
But highlight for me, Cope coming out with a whole bunch of disposable cameras for the benefit of those with flash photography to demonstrate that they would want to have a 5-second pose. Yes. That for me was the highlight of the show. Peeps, what was your highlight of that show?
Oh, the highlight of the show for me, like you said before, that catapult house call, getting flung up into the air onto Bandito, standing on Bandito's shoulders, and then hitting him with the house call.
Absolutely.
That was insane.
Yes. When it pertains to Dynamite,
now pertaining to Dynamite, we know that going forward, the building of Ospreay, what they're trying to do with Ospreay, I think what they did with MJF and kind of that little back and forth that he had with Kevin Knight, and basically saying, I'm proud of you and that kind of thing. And he's like, don't get it twisted. We're going to face each other. I'm going to take that belt from you. I think that's kind of where they're leading to. Now, what I will say, and this is what I take away from what happened on Dynamite, is the lack of the women's division and what the women's division did not do on Dynamite / Collision, because it was a 3-hour show, which, by the way, it's kind of odd. No ratings for Dynamite yet. They still haven't been posted, but we'll go figure. Speculation is whatever it is. But here's the reason why. I jotted this down. The entire show for Dynamite, we didn't get a women's match on Dynamite until almost an hour and 50 minutes into the show. After what they had done, and there was only one tournament match at Double or Nothing, and that was Athena's match with Mina Shirakawa. The other tournament matches hadn't happened. I think Persephone was supposed to be in the match. I think she's nursing an injury. Sari, who's a Japanese wrestler who was in New Japan, she's nursing an injury as well. And because of Willow Nightingale's pulling away from wrestling because she's hurt and being subsequently stripped of the TBS title, they need to have a wild card. And I was under the assumption that they were going to put that wild card match on Dynamite. They didn't. The match is going to be next week. So what are they doing with the women's division? That part makes no sense to me. Especially having Tekla at the top of the women's division, and you having tag team championships, and the women's tag team championship was defended on the pre-show of Double or Nothing. Something's got to happen. They need to do better with that.
You know what? They can do something that can make everybody happy, including the phenomenal one.
Okay.
Bring back the Doctor.
There you go.
DMD. Yes. Bring back Britt Baker. Then I'll watch. Jokes aside, peeps, let's go ahead and continue on. From here, we move to the world of Woo! Peeps Nation.
Yeah.
Ric Flair's back at it again. And no, when I say back again, I'm not saying professional wrestling for you sore losers that think this man should go ahead and wrestle as an 80-year-old frail and narcissistic piece of crap. But no, I'm talking about him being back in the media, using Twitter fingers to dispose of his hate and his displeasure. Now for his son? Peeps,
yes.
Talk about it.
This was probably the weirdest story of the week. Apparently, Ric Flair got into his feelings again by going on to his social media, this one on X, because we know Flair is really all about his social media. And apparently he threatened legal action against his only surviving son, David, over the Flair name. And this is literally what he put up. And this was just from a couple of days ago. He says, unfortunately, there is someone that I am very familiar with using my own trademark Flair. I would like anyone who is using my trademarks, which are impossible to own, and I own mine, we'll get to that in a second, to know that I am well represented by a reputable $1,000 per hour attorney that makes a living suing people that abuse my trademark. You know who I'm talking about. I hope you can clear this up by Monday. And if we can't resolve the issue, read the penalties. And then he had put a screenshot on his page it was from Google AI, about civil penalties from trademark infringement. And it's really crazy that he went through this whole route. And then afterwards, he did another tweet. And he basically said, the relationship was gone 9 years ago. This referring to the relationship with his son, David. I'm sorry and sad that it has come to this. I've tried my best to fix things over the years, only to be rejected because your wife runs your life. Now, the context for this, and the reason why this whole thing is happening, is that apparently some years ago, David Flair has started a recycling business with his wife in North Carolina, and the company's name is Green Flair. That's the name of the company, and they do recycling and the normal trucks and picking up recycling and hauling things out. That's where that comes from. This isn't something that just happened. He started this business in 2015. So all of a sudden now, some 11 years later, he's got an issue to go on social media to do that and to threaten legal action against his son, David. So I bring this up because I wanted to kind of ask you, if the WWE has the trademark to the name Flair in using Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte, do you think Ric Flair is going to sue WWE for using the trademark of Flair that he just used in his tirade on his son? I'll ask you that phenomenal one. What do you think would happen?
Peeps, has it happened yet?
No.
Well, that answers your question. Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is marketable. Charlotte Flair is a 14-time women's world champion. Charlotte Flair has main events at WrestleMania. Okay?
Yes.
Charlotte has done the incomparable. So where David has...
He must be a black sheep, because that's basically where this seems to be coming from. And as you've heard me, as big of a Ric Flair fan as I am, I'm also very fair when it comes to when he does something boneheaded or snowflakeish or something that kind of is not even comprehending where it's coming from, tone deaf even. He does something, gets upset, and then a couple days later after it dies down, somebody says something, he goes back on social media, and then he goes and tries to reel it back.
I'll tell you where this is coming from. It's easy. This is retribution for siding with Russo in 2000 and being a part of the New Bloods in WCW. This is where this is siding from. I can only imagine. Why do you think Reed still gets talked about? And Reed's gone. Rest in peace to him. But Reed gets talked about in a much more larger light to Rick than David has ever.
Yes.
There is hate there. There is seething hate. I don't know, because he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps and he couldn't do it, or because the dad wanted him to follow in his footsteps and he chose a different route. Whatever it is, peeps, family values in the Ric Flair household are upheated, not for us to figure out, but for the Flairs to figure out. It just so happened that Ric Flair wanted to go ahead and speak about it publicly.
Yes, and the worst part about it is, as we've discussed, what is the MO of Ric Flair when he does something like that? What does he usually do 24 to 48 hours later?
Oh, he backtracks on it.
Exactly. And then he did a tweet on his page basically saying, quote, "I'm obviously not suing my son. Just reminding him that you can't have the best of both worlds. Use your God-given name." Now, first of all, you're going to understand why he even threw his own original name of Flair under the bus by this tweet, but you'll understand where I'm coming from. Use your God-given name Flair, which isn't worth a cup of coffee, or your wife's name, who has had 3 generations of success. Also, please don't sell my robes that I let you use during your career, as you have already sold one. You're 47 years old. Now stand on your own 2 feet, please. And then he has pictures of his son with his wife. And then, of course, there's a picture of him in his robe as a wrestler. And I refuse to try to understand this man's way of thinking. But I have never seen a wrestler who has gone on and has able to live the life that he's lived, and then has gone through the health-wise that he's gone through, to have a phoenix rising from the ashes of the health issues that he's had, to get the second life that he's had, only to literally piss a lot of that away because of his sensitive nature and his obvious conceit of himself and his bloated up ego. This is coming from me, a Flair fan. Yes.
I'm just going to say this. This is what Flair had to say 2 hours ago. If you understood the health issues that I deal with and am currently dealing with, you would understand why I get frustrated in life with a lot of people. I'm sorry for the frustration. I am taking time to focus on my health. Post a picture of himself in front of a hospital. then proceeds to go ahead and post his heart rates, has in the last 2 hours all being above 100 to sub 95. How are you gonna say you're focusing on your health, but then post about your health? You know what? I digress. Peeps, I
There
think we
you
can
go.
go ahead and water ratings.
Yes. Good grief. After 4 I digresses, this is one of those kinds of shows, folks.
Yup,
Anyway,
indeed.
and as I said before, AEW has yet to post Dynamite / Collision's ratings. I don't know why it's taken this long. Usually it's up by now, but I can give you SmackDown's ratings and NXT's ratings because NXT's ratings were available yesterday. NXT did 544,000 viewers with a 0.05 in the demo. SmackDown did a 1.26 million viewership amount, and they were an 0.24 in the demo. So their demo went up some. SmackDown was probably about maybe almost 10 million viewers higher than the previous week. So the demo went down slightly, but the viewership amount went up slightly. So they got some people coming back to watching the show. I am interested as far as AEW Dynamite because, as we've said before, the previous week, Dynamite and Collision were back to back. They did a 3-hour broadcast the previous week as well, going into the pay-per-view, and those numbers were really good. So I would expect when the ratings come in for this, that the ratings should probably be similar, maybe a little bit slightly below or above. And just for brevity, 613,000 was what they did last week. So somewhere in that realm, they should be in. Hopefully, it will be better than what they did, based on the fact that they just did a pay-per-view going in as their go-home show.
Indeed. Well then, peeps, thank you for the ratings, my friend. We will now move to our question of the week. Peeps, look, this one comes from Master Sean 007. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. If the New York Knicks win the championship, should Danhausen get his own parade float and championship ring? I mean, he cursed the Cavaliers and they ended up getting swept."
You know, being a diehard Knicks fan since the year before Patrick Ewing was drafted, so that's
put a statue in front of the garden.
Yes,
I'm sorry. I digress. You can continue.
Look, the Knicks already gave Danhausen a uniform with, I believe, the number 1 or 0 on the jersey, and let him pose in front of the camera. If the Knicks win the championship, starting with game 1, if they go through and they win the championship, not only should Danhausen get a ring, not only should he get a jersey and his own float, they need to retire his jersey and put it in the rafters of the Garden. Right? That's what they need to do.
Would that make him the second only WWE star to get their name retired in the rafters at the Garden if that were to happen behind Hulk Hogan?
Yes.
Jeez. You know what? I take you up on that offer. Get Danhausen's number retired, even though he never played a single game for the Knicks. But I mean, you know what? I'm all for it. This is perfect. This is great. Coming from diehard Knicks fans, we're talking about Danhausen getting his own float. Holy hell.
What a question.
Exactly. But Master Shaw 007, thank you for that, guys. If you want to go ahead and send the question and you feel like it's entertaining or funny or at least good to ask for us, feel free to out our Instagram at Saturday afternoons _main event. Send it in. And again, if it's that damn good, in the words of JBL, like Aaron Damn T, it'll be on the next episode of the show. But with that being said, peeps, we're now at our final topic. We have literally 6 minutes to go, and it is our Clash in Italy predictions for tomorrow. Peeps, it is a multiple match card. You are looking at 5 matches at most. Hopefully that doesn't change at all, considering that we do know that there is an injury on the heels of this. But, peeps, I'm going to skim through this and I'm going to tell you exactly how I look at this. I got Gunther, Rhea, Roman. Wait, what? There's no way they put that.
I see what they did there. Could you imagine that?
They're killing me. They're
Yes.
killing me. Peeps, does that say Zilla?
Yes, that says Zilla, which is hilarious. But I want to tell you something. We already just talked about how Jacob Fatu is nursing a legitimate back injury. If Zilla was to show up for this, which I highly doubt, but if that was, what a coup.
You know what? I wouldn't be mad at it, but still, I have Roman Reigns winning. Give me Becky Lynch to win, and give me Brock Lesnar to defeat Obafemi. Go 1-1. That's my thought process. Peeps, do you agree, or do you somewhat have to slide it on certain matches?
Okay. I would love for Walter to be the winner of this. I just somehow, some way, think that Cody's going to come out of this on top. And the reason why I say that is because the WWE still looks at Cody as the face of the company. I don't think he's going to end up losing this, knowing that at some point he's going to have to go to Saudi and be on that card. That's given the fact that if they continue to go on with that card for Night of Champions and they decide to go and do that. If they do it, Cody's going to be champ going in. That's the way I look at it. As far as Rhea and Jade, I think Rhea is going to win this one as well. I don't think that there's any way that this happens unless the only way that Rhea would lose this is if there was some sort of issues, accident, shenanigans with the baddies and Charlotte and Alexa. They go in and something happens which costs Rhea the match. I just don't see that happening. I think what's going to happen is they're going to neutralize each other, and I think Rhea is going to end up getting the win in that match. As far as Roman goes, even without what was going on, I think Roman was going to end up winning. But the thing that the scary part of this is that you run the risk of Jacob losing the momentum that they've been building with him turning. So if that was the case, so be it. I think Roman is going to end up winning this one because low down the stretch, I think they want him to hold onto this belt at least until sometime in the summer. Now, if the injury is legit and something happens with Jacob, then there's no doubt that Roman is going to go into this. The question is how did they work it? Becky Lynch and Sol Ruka. I would love to see Sol win the Intercontinental Championship, but they haven't done the greatest of jobs since she's been on the main rosters. I mean, for the most part, I believe she's only won like 2 matches since she's been on the roster, and one was by disqualification. Can they have her lose another match, this one in Italy? I just don't see it. I think Becky's going to end up finding a way to win this one. And Oba and Brock, I believe Brock is going to win this. And the reason why I say that is being the case is because I have a feeling that they're going to stretch this out to SummerSlam. If the payoff is Brock is going to still get a retirement match in, and you're going to have Oba beat Brock. Why, if Oba beats Brock twice, what would be the incentive of having a third match if there's no stakes in it other than the fact that Oba and Brock are going to wrestle again? The mystique is who's going to win this. If you're making it a trilogy of matches, yes. If there is no final match down the road or whatever is the case, and you have Oba win, end this feud. But if there's going to be an elongated term of making this feud last at least through the summer, you have that happen and you have Oba lose. So I think Brock is going to come out on top of this, and that's going to lead to a rubber match. That's what I think is going to happen with that.
All right. Well then, peeps, we're locking those in, as that is it. Those are our predictions for Clash in Italy, and as I look at the time, that marks the end of today's show. So, peeps, thank you for going ahead and being here with me, my friend. Shouts out to all the people going ahead and watching on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We appreciate you guys. We thank you guys. We will be back, of course, next week for the following Fallout episode of Clash in Italy, and everything in between when it comes down to the world of professional wrestling. But on a day like this, we salute you guys, we thank you, and we say that on this episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event, I had a phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate, and of course for our partner, Mr. 411. Hopefully we'll see him next week.
Indeed.
Of course. Yes, we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the visionless Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered.
Yes.
See you next week for the following episode of Same. Peace, love, and most certainly, farewell.